Thank you, Dennis. How you doing today? It's good, beautiful day, wonderful. It is a joy to be at Shoreline again and on Monterey Peninsula for the last week. And today we are going to have a conversation. Today we're going to have a conversation about 9 of the most disruptive words in the Bible. Are you ready? Yeah, that's what you think. All right. 9 of the most disruptive words in the Bible are these right here. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I got a question. Who in the world wrote that? And what were they thinking? I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Read them out loud with me just so you can hear yourself say them. Ready? I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. Who in the world wrote that and what were they thinking? Question, did you ever go through a season of financial shortage in life? Ever? All right. Some of you, it wasn't that fun, was it? Chris and I, when we were 21 years old, got married right before my last year of college and started preaching at Ada Bible Church. It's where we still are. Now it's a large church. Then it was a church of 25 people. Just some financial counsel for you today. If you're seeking a fast track to financial stability, do not become the pastor of a church of 25 people. I'm just saying. But we made ends meet. We had our children in rapid succession. First Sarah, then Andrew, and then Alex, all within like 3.5-year period of time. And Chris, as the kids grew, she learned to take them to McDonald's on $6. Any of you done this? Right, you get the 2 cheeseburger Happy Meal, cut one of them in half for the boys, give Sarah, the older kid, the other one, and you supersize the fries because there's enough there to feed a small country, right? And then, and if my daughter Sarah was bold enough to say, "Mom, can I have a Happy Meal?" Chris would say, "Are you happy? Yeah, then that's a Happy Meal." Now, I don't know that we would have quoted this at the time, but if Sarah had complained, we could have said, "There's a verse in the Bible we want you to memorize, 9 disruptive words. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances." Of course, when you go through a season of shortage and then you're out of it, you look back with nostalgia and laugh at it, but it's just not that fun at the time. Ramen noodles, anyone? Anybody overdose on these? We're trying to get through college, trying to do a graduate program. Good news, you scored an internship. Bad news, it's a non-paying internship. Did you not grow to loathe the aroma, the texture, the very crinkling of the wrapper? After a while, they all taste the same. No, Jeff, there are 3 pleasing flavors, chicken, beef, and pork. No, after a while, they all taste the same. I know some of you are going, "No, Jeff, I kind of like ramen noodles." Well, there's a difference between eating them because you may and eating them because you must. And there are those words sitting there in our Bible. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. And we get to explore those today by asking the question, who in the world wrote them and what were they thinking? Last summer, I had the privilege of being here with Chris, and I spoke on the topic of contentment. Today is kind of like part B. I just want to take the conversation from last summer, if you were here, and push it forward a little bit farther. The answer to that first question, who in the world wrote this, it's a person in our Bible. His name is Paul. Sometimes he's called the Apostle Paul, and some of you might even know him as Saint Paul. And in about 51 AD, Paul is traveling through major cities in the Roman Empire, like Thessalonica, and there's a map here that shows where Philippi is. That's Kavala, nearby harbor. I was there on market day. Then there's this road called the Ignatian Way that goes to Philippi. That, my friends, is the Forum, administrative building and shopping area with huge paving stones. And this is where you went in the evening to watch a story, a Greek theater. And I just show you that little 25-second clip of Philippi so that when we talk about Paul writing to the Philippians, I just don't want you to imagine a little village with a couple shacks and 3 goats running around. We're talking a pretty significant Roman city occupied by the Romans in northern Greece. And so by 51 AD, Paul arrives there, and he brings something with him. He brings something called the gospel. Gospel means good news, because it's good news that when we could not reach up to God, he reached down to us. It's good news that when we were going our own way, not only incapable of keeping the rules, but not even interested in following God with our lives, Jesus comes and gives up his life for us. And so Paul arrives in Philippi just decades after Jesus' crucifixion. And he tells these people about the crucifixion of Jesus, about the resurrection of Jesus, about the hope of Jesus, and about the way of Jesus, about 51 AD. And then he leaves. He lives to go to other cities in the south. He leaves, he goes to Thessalonica, and then to Athens, and then to Corinth, where he spends a year and a half. But these friends in Philippi, something happened there that was deep. Something happened there that was lasting. A year goes by, then 2, then 3, then 5, then 7, then 10. 10 years later, around 61 AD, Paul is not traveling. Paul is imprisoned in Rome. It doesn't look like he's in a dungeon. It looks like he's in a rented apartment, but under house arrest. House arrest, you're chained to a Roman guard 24 hours a day. You do not have your freedom. Now, my understanding of Roman incarceration is that they would give you enough food to keep you alive, but it might be stale bread sort of thing. Maybe enough clothes, but the clothes might be ragged clothes. If you really wanted to dress clothing yourself against the winter or have food with sufficient protein, you either had to have a bank account to draw on or you had to have friends from the outside come to your assistance. And Paul did not have a bank account to draw on when he's under house arrest. One day the door opens and Paul looks up and he sees a man who has traveled all the way from Philippi to visit him and to help him. The guy's name is Epaphroditus. And he brings with him some money. It's a collection from the Christians in Philippi, the Jesus family that Paul had started 10 years earlier. Now, there's a map here I just want you to see, and all I want you to identify is that Philippi is nowhere close to Rome. We believe that Paul is in Rome, Philippi is across the Adriatic Sea, and then across the peninsula of Greece. And so when they find out Paul is in Roman prison, they select a man from the congregation, they take up a collection, he brings money, and he travels a long way and then has to hunt Paul down in the city of Rome, which was not an easy task. How do you say thank you for something like that? I mean, I wonder if Paul wept when he saw him. What did this money mean? Did it mean that he was able to eat food with some nutritional value? Did it mean that he was able to buy a coat with the cold months coming? Did it mean that he was able to buy some parchment and some ink to write with? And you're thinking, well, now Paul has got to be at peace in his heart and have joy and be more fully alive and more whole now that this money's arrived. But Paul wants to be very clear about something. As he writes the thank you note to the Philippians, he wants to be very clear about the fact that he was content before the money got there. Those 9 disruptive words, I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances, that's in the middle of his thank you note to them for this money that they sent. And he's saying, listen, I just need you to know something. Thank you so much for the money you sent. You need to know that I was okay before I got it. Because I have embraced a life discipline called contentment, and I have learned to be content with money for his words, and I find them deeply, deeply challenging. But as we talk about contentment today, any conversation about contentment is a conversation about freedom. Contentment will free you from buying stuff you don't need and never use. Contentment can free you. It can free you to enjoy the stuff that you have without thinking that wholeness is down there somewhere on the other side of your next acquisition. Contentment. A conversation about contentment is a conversation about the liberated life. Also, contentment can free you to be alive to God and alive to other people even when you're not in space where you want to be. Those words, I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. My friends, they were written by an inmate. They were written by a guy that's chained to a Roman guard, and he says, I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. So let's talk about freedom. Is about contentment. Our second conversation is about strength, and our third conversation is about trust. So contentment, then strength, and then trust. Paul's full sentence, we started Philippians chapter 4, verse 11. I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. And then he breaks it down this way. He riffs on this. He says, look, I know what it is to be in need, and I also know what it is to have what? Plenty. He says, look, I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, and then whether living in plenty or in want. Paul's saying here that he's lived on both sides of the tracks. He's experienced both edges, both financial prosperity and financial shortage. If he were writing this today, he might say this. He might say, I know what it's like to fly business class. And I know what it's like to spend all night on a Greyhound bus, just trying to get some sleep. I know what it's like to stay in a 5-star resort. And I know what it's like to spend a couple nights in a very seedy hotel where it is clear that the sheets have not been changed in a long, long time. I've experienced both. I know what it's like to go down to the ocean, down to the shoreline, and to enjoy a wonderful seafood pasta. And I also know what it's like to go 2 days without eating. I know what it's like to have money in my wallet, and I know what it's like to have nothing. And to go, dear Jesus, what are we going to do? And Paul says, I have learned to be fully alive to God, fully alive to other people, and to experience wholeness and joy. Whichever situation this goes down, I've learned to be content, well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Now, the key words to the contented life are the 3 words, here and now. I'd love you to say them out loud with me. Can you give it a shot? Ready? Here and now. This stool represents where you are, and down there somewhere represents where you wish you were. Here and now. Where are you here and now? She goes, I'm working in a coffee shop. Saying, well, that's awesome. You're employed, and it's a great coffee shop. Yeah, but it's after earning my education degree and getting certified. I want, in the worst way, to have a teaching position. Okay, now here's your challenge. How can you bring your best self to employees, customers? How can you be fully alive to God and fully alive to other people when you are not where you want to be? Now, apply, polish your resume, network, but as long as you are stuck here, is it possible to say, I can bring my best self? My friends, this is not one of the easier tasks of life. I think one of the harder tasks of life is bringing ourselves when we're not in space we want to be, particularly work that we don't enjoy, or don't feel valued, or don't feel honored or adequately thanked. To be able to say, dear Jesus, help me to be fully alive to you, fully alive to other people every day that I punch in. These are the words of contentment. Here and now, here and now, here and now. Where are you? 1998 Toyota Corolla. Where do you wish you were? Anything other than a 1998 Toyota Corolla. I had a woman come up to me, honest. A woman comes up to me after the early service, and she looks at me and she says, 1993 Toyota Corolla. And then with great pride, $96 a year in registration, $400 a year in insurance costs, and thrilled to have it and content. Here and now, here and now, here and now. Powerful, powerful words. You say, Jeff, I can't be, just a story. I got to hear this story. It's not important to the sermon, but you must hear it. Speaking of cars, my dad's 75, right? And he listens, he attends my church, he listens to me preach, he's a fan. And a couple years ago at Shoreline, I told this quotation that I just love from Mr. Rogers. You know Fred Rogers, the neighborhood and make-believe guy? Before his death, he wrote this. He said, the older I get, the more I've come to believe that nothing I buy can take away my loneliness, fill my emptiness, or heal my brokenness. I love that quote. Nothing I buy can take away my loneliness, fill my emptiness, or heal my brokenness. So my dad informs us that he's looking for a different automobile. Not just any automobile. He's looking at Denali's. Like used, but like SUV type. It's like, Dad, it's like you and Mom. Why do you need two empty benches behind you? But he wanted this vehicle, and so he went to test drive one at a car lot not far from us, and he's walking around the car with the car dealer, and he says, well, how much, what mileage does it get? And the guy at the dealership goes, why? Do you go anywhere? My dad goes, no. The guy goes, then it doesn't matter. And it didn't. So he gets the Denali, and so he just loved this new automobile, and I gave my dad a call. I said, Dad, tell me about your new ride. How do you like the vehicle? He says, Jeff, I'll tell you, it took away my loneliness, it filled my emptiness, and it healed my brokenness. I'm like going, how long have you been waiting to use that line back on me? But the idea of here and now is it frees us from thinking that somewhere, where is happiness and wholeness for you? It's down there somewhere. Whereas it's after we get the kitchen remodeled, that's where it is. It's down there when the kids get through university and finally we can spend our money on us. Happiness and wholeness is down there when we get out of this tiny apartment and get moved into our house, when we save the down payment money. It's down there. Wholeness is there and then. Contentment frees you to go here and now, here and now, here and now. Something revolts in the spirit. He goes, I can't be content here and now. Jeff, our teenage daughter has run far from God, rebelled against God and rebelled against us. She's making our lives miserable. I won't be whole till she comes around. You might be waiting a while. I mean, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure that you want to link your emotional equilibrium to hers? Are you certain that you want to link your spiritual life to her spiritual life? Contentment is the power of going, we don't want this situation. We didn't ask for this situation. We don't understand this situation. But by God's grace, we will be fully alive to others, and we will seek wholeness in this situation, here and now, here and now, here and now. Trust me, sometimes this is hard. Say, Jeff, I don't think we have what it takes here and now. I didn't want this divorce. And it's not just the feeling of abandonment and betrayal and desertion, it's the financial upheaval that it caused. Here and now is hard. Someone would go, Jeff, we were foreclosed on 4 years ago, and this wasn't just losing a house. Man, this was losing our home. We walked the property together. We designed the house together. We opened presents in that family room. We became a family there. I don't think we're over it yet. Here and now is fully alive to God and other people. Here and now is hard. I don't think I had the strength for it. You need to know something. Neither did Paul. Neither did Paul. Our second conversation is a conversation about strength, and it is the very next verse where Paul writes, I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Paul, how did you have the strength to do that? You're under arrest, right? Yeah. You're in prison. Well, house arrest. You're chained to a Roman guard. Yes. You don't want to be there. I do not want to be there. You do not have your freedom. I do not have my freedom. And yet you're saying, I have learned to be content. Yes, I have. How in the world did you have the strength to do that? And I think Paul would say, I didn't. The only way I was fully alive to God and other people and experienced full peace and deep joy and wholeness in that situation was the power and presence of Christ in my life. I can only do this through him who gives me, what's the word? Strength. Through him who gives me strength. What Paul would say to us is this: I was able to bring my full self to that situation because he was with me. If the three words we had you say with contentment are the words here and now, there are three words for strength, and they're just the words, He's with you. Can you say those with me? Ready? He's with you. And some of you just need to whisper, He's with me. He's with you. He's with you in the middle of the mess. He's with you in the middle of the storm. He's with you. King David, king of Jerusalem, lived 1,000 years before the time of Jesus. In addition to being a king, he was also a songwriter, and many of his songs are recorded in our Bible. The song lyrics, we can read them in the book of Psalms. Most famous song that David wrote that we know is the shepherd's psalm, that one that begins, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. In the middle of that song, he goes, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. David says, even though I walk through this dark, dark valley, I refuse to be paralyzed by anxiety. I refuse to be crippled by fear. Why? He's with me. It was the presence of God that David was leaning into. He's with me. What if He's with you? What if He's with you as you stare into a cluttered garage and say, what possesses me to buy crap I don't need with money I don't have and stuff I'm never going to use? I just want to go, He's with you as you sort that out. He's with you. This next child, you go, we need to move now from 2 incomes to 1 or 2 incomes to 1.5. And a couple sits down late one Thursday night with a legal pad and begin to mark off luxuries that used to be normal. Not going to be doing that anymore. Not going to be doing that anymore. Can't do that anymore. As they adjust to a new lifestyle, listen, He's with you. He's with you as you lay in bed at night wondering where your 17-year-old is. He's with you as you brace for your next round of chemo. He's with you. The inmate writes, I have learned to be content in any and every situation, but I can only do this through the power and presence of Christ in my life. Some of you today, that's why you needed to be here today. You just needed to be able to whisper the words, He's with me. Some of you that came with friends or other family members who are going through a complicated situation, when you climb into your car and as you pull out of the parking lot, just looking at each other and saying the words, He's with us. Here and now. Here and now. How do you have the strength for here and now? He's with me. He's with you. He's with us. It's a conversation about strength. It's this beautiful, beautiful story. Here's Paul, starts this Jesus community in Philippi 10 years before. And now this enduring friendship, and Epaphroditus shows up with this money that's going to help him out. It's a beautiful story, and something in us just goes, I'm so grateful that Paul had wealthy friends. They weren't wealthy. There are some indications in Scripture that the congregation in Philippi was poverty-stricken. When they passed the hat for Paul, that was money that they could not afford to give. Now he's doing better, but what about them? Paul is never going to be able to pay them back. It's kind of like, now you've taken care of me, but how are you guys going to make it? So the third conversation is the conversation about trust. And Paul simply writes these words. These are famous words in the Bible, Philippians chapter 4, verse 19, where he simply says, and my God will meet all your needs according to the riches of His glory in Christ Jesus. Paul said, I believe God's going to take care of you. And my God will meet all your needs. Paul's saying, I believe that you gave this sacrificial gift and I believe God will meet, I wish it said luxuries there. It doesn't. It doesn't say wants. It just says, my God will meet all your needs. I believe the Father in heaven will provide food for your families and clothing. I believe my God will meet all your needs. It's the journey of trust. Because that's the spooky part, isn't it? Those of you that are note-taking types, copious note-takers, I would love you to write something down. This is profound. Ready? When I give money away, ready? It's not mine anymore. Thank you. When I give money away, it's not mine anymore. When I give money away, it's not mine for a home renovation. It's not mine for a weekend getaway. It's not mine for dining out. It's not mine to put in savings or in retirement. When I give money away, it's not mine anymore. And so the generosity question is just, okay, God, I have a problem here. As I'm taking care of your interests, who's going to take care of me? And there's this little voice that goes, I will. Trust me. Trust me. Fear of tomorrow will paralyze generosity today. Fear that I will not have enough, or fear that I will not be enough if I let this money go. Any serious conversation about generosity, I believe, has to be a conversation about, can God be trusted? Now, if there were 3 words for contentment here and now, and there were 3 words for strength, he's with you, there are 3 words for trust, and it's just the words, I trust you. Can you say the words out loud, even if you don't believe them yet? Ready? I trust you. Or some of us will say, I don't. But God, I want to trust you more. It's an honest prayer, and it's a good prayer. I want to trust you more. So we got to talk about this, because this is very, very, very real. Because as you begin to follow Jesus, something will be stirred in your heart to become more generous with your finances. And the reason that will be stirred is because at the beginning of time, God created men and women in his own, what's the term? We're made in God's image, and that got messed up at the beginning of time with something called the fall, and God is at work to restore his image in us. Why is it that as you follow Jesus, you will want to become more generous? Because that's what God is like. He's wildly gracious. He's wildly generous. One of the first verses a little kid learns in church, for God so loved the world that he gave. He loves and he gives. He gives and he loves. And as he begins to form himself in you, generosity will be stirred, and so will fear. So let's talk. Something you need to know as I draw this. I can't draw, so this should be fun for all of us. So just this little diagram here. I'm just putting a G at the top for God. And just to put this down here for you. And this is money that's given away. So I'll put a G here for giving or for generosity. This is money that I release in order to serve another family or a friend going through an awful stretch, a season of shortage. This is money I used to bless my church, online or when the offering baskets pass, to bless a church that is a blessing to me. This might be money I used to help support a friend doing international missions opportunity. It's just money that's given away. You get the idea, right? And here's the challenge. If I let that go, then it's not mine anymore for any number of things. And so if I'm taking care of God's interests, who's going to take care of me? And down the other side, I'm just going to write a P here for provision. And it's kind of like I give and God provides, and I give and God provides. The Philippians gave, and Paul says, my God will supply all your needs. He's describing here a cycle of care. And a cycle of care is also a cycle of trust. I trust you. God, I trust you. I trust that you see my needs. I trust that you know my needs. You're stirring in me a capacity to become more generous. It's what you're like, and as you form yourself in me, it's something that I'm desiring more, but I'm scared that I won't have enough. I'm scared that I won't be enough. As I give, God provides. As I give, God provides. As I give, God provides. It's a cycle. We enter into a cycle of care, and a cycle of care is a cycle of trust, and there will have to come a point where as we seek generosity, we'll go, God, I trust you. I trust you. I trust you because now that I've taken care of that, it's not mine. I trust you. I mentioned at the beginning of our time that Chris and I started at Ada Bible Church when we were age 21. The church was small. Our salary was pathetically small. And yet, early in our marriage as 21-year-olds, we devoted ourselves to a life practice it's called tithing. Tithing is the life discipline of living off 90% of your income so that 10% can be given away. Tithing is the life discipline of restricting your expenses to 90% of what you're earning so that 10% can be totally at God's disposal for his purposes in our world. I can testify to you that even though things were really rough, we never missed a meal. We always fed our children. It might have been only a couple boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese in the cupboard. We always had food. We always had clothing. There were always enough change or a few dollars to scrape together to put in the gas tank to get to whatever appointment or church commitment that we had. We can testify that we entered into a cycle of care. It was a cycle of trust where again and again we just said, God, we trust you, we trust you, we trust you. And God met our needs. Powerful words. I trust you. So, conversation about contentment, conversation about strength, conversation about trust. Here and now, say, he's with me, and then I trust you. Ready? Here and now, he's with me, I trust you. One more time. Here and now, he's with me, I trust you. Question, which one of those did you need to hear today? One of them at least, I bet. Maybe two, maybe three. Are you in some space where you're going like, Jeff, you do not know how challenging it is right now to be fully alive and to have a good attitude with what we're going through? And just those words, by God's strength, here and now, here and now, here and now. Some of you just needed to be reminded about the power and presence of Christ in your life. Jeff, that one sentence is what I have to cling to all week. He's with me, he's with me, he's with me. And that last part, because some of you go, yeah, generosity is being stirred, and Jeff, we're scared. God, I trust you, or I don't, but I want to trust you more. That's a great prayer. Help me trust you more. And so Dennis is going to come up and close the service, but before he does, I just deeply desire to pray for you this day. Lord Jesus, we give thanks that we've been in this space and we've been able to converse about this important topic together. God, I ask that your transforming work would be done in each of our lives. Mold us, shape us, refine us into the people you created us to be and the people we so deeply desire to be. We ask this in the name of our generous Lord who came here for us. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Jeff. Powerful, powerful message. Thank you so much. If you'd like to hear more of what Jeff has to share about life and difficult transitions and finding contentment, we have these two books in the bookstore available for you. Go check them out. Grab some copies for yourself. We're going to hand off to the venue pastors now. And as you saw earlier in a video,
Well, thank you so much for being part of our worship service today. And you may have noticed in this message today that there was a real challenge for spiritual growth. To not just go to church, not just follow a service online, not just even put your faith in Jesus, but to grow and to walk more closely with Him. One of the best ways you can do that is to dig into His Word. There's all kinds of Bibles. Here at Shoreline, we use the NIV, and this is a study Bible. If you've never gotten a study Bible before, if you've never used a study Bible, I'd encourage you to not only have your own Bible, but to go deeper, to learn about the history, the background, the context of what's happening. So I encourage you to get a Bible and to read it every day. If you're not sure where to start, go on our website and just follow the daily reading and click right onto any device or turn to your Bible and follow that section. That'll get you ready for next week's message. I also want to encourage you to take some next steps in your spiritual growth. You can go onto Shoreline's website, you'll see the address right here on the screen, and take next steps of growth. We have all kinds of resources and materials. Take another step, go deeper. If you look on the website, you can't find what you need, give us a call at the church. But we want to help you take more steps in your spiritual growth. Well, God bless you. Have a great week, and hopefully we'll see you back here next week.